Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coach's Conversation Café. I am Keith Rodriguez, your moderator for today, and I have with me on my panel Adam Valencia, President and CEO of RY Inc. And we have a very special guest that we're proud to have with us today. Yes, Nicole Franklin Jones, a woman of many parts and multiple educations, and lead trainer for RY Inc. So welcome, Nicole, and thank you for being with us.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. So without further ado, Nicole, give us a brief snapshot of your background a little bit.
So once again, thank you for this opportunity to be a part of the Coach Conversation Cafe podcast. Guys, I really appreciate it. A little bit about me, very brief. Again, my name is Nicole Franklin Jones, and I am actually a certified life coach that specializes in working with at-risk youth for over 30 plus years. I have been a national trainer with Reconnecting Youth Inc. for over 20 years, and I am proud to say now I'm serving as the lead trainer for not only Reconnecting Youth, but as well as CAST.
Awesome. That is awesome.
So, hey, Nicole, you and I, we've had many conversations about a lot of the work that we're doing with our young people, and certainly so proud to have you as part of our company and leading the way with our virtual platform. But oftentimes, there's so much to be done. And
Right.
When I start thinking about our students and families and the kind of work that's needed, just kind of want to hear from you on some of the outreach efforts that you're providing. Not just out in your area, but just nationally. I know we're doing a lot of work with reconnecting youth, but I also know that you also do some work working with families as well. So you can share a little bit about that with us. That'd be great.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. So when we talk about outreach, one of the things that I've learned to focus on is not necessarily what we as adults feel our young adults need, but I go into the schools and the detention center, and I actually find out what it is that our young adults are missing that's allowing them to stay connected with our society. And so we know that my goal is to connect at-risk youth back into their school, with their family, with their peers, and especially with oneself. So some of the outreach efforts, there are four that I focus on right now. One is educating youth on healthy relationships, and that is teen dating abuse, talking about breaking the cycle of abuse. Why is that so important? Because we know that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will become victims of domestic violence. Unfortunately, our young men who witness domestic violence are twice as likely to become abusers. So we have a responsibility and an obligation to start educating them on what healthy should look like, which is why the programs such as Coaching Boys into Men and Athletes as Leaders is so important. The second outreach that I focus on is gender socialization. Why is that so important, Adam? It's because we need to understand the man box. The man box contributes to young boys who grow up to be men, who were never taught the importance of stepping outside of that box, understanding that they also have a voice. And so our society has allowed our young men to be captured in that box, which we know has done nothing but create a level of violence. And so one of the things that I'm real passionate about is working with young men and talking about why they have a right to their feelings, to their emotions, and that we do not judge them. They have a right not to be judged or to be criticized for wanting to step outside of that man box, as well as our young ladies, teaching them what their roles are, because society has given them all roles. And so we have a responsibility to teach them that they're more than just what our society has said they are, what their culture has said they have to be, what the media has described them as being, and for some of them, even their family history has defined them. So for me, those are the two of the key ones, as well as reconnecting youth and teaching our young adults about different skill base to be able to continue those two programs on, and also CAS, coping and supporting training. We have to understand that we live in a generation where we assume our young adults know how to behave, and they have the skills in order to be successful. But I have found with working in the school system for over 20 some years and working in the detention centers, not only with young adults, with adults, that we know that that's not always the case.
Wow, those are such interesting points. Awesome, Nicole. I mean, the whole man box thing. I've never heard that. Not being a deeply rooted person in education, the system of teaching. I come from a little different background,
Right.
but that man box is so interesting. It's a great concept, and then the assumption that we all fall into, that our young people, both male boys and girls, think that they know what they're doing, or that they know, and you're right, they don't. They need guidance. They need help. They need to be told, instructed in a constructive way. So, man, those are great things right there, Nicole. Love it. Love it. Yeah. Now, we have a lot of educators that listen to our little show here, and I know a lot of for them and their principals, the boots on the ground people that are dealing with a lot of our students that are returning to back to school. What are some of maybe some keys or some coping mechanisms that maybe you could share with our educators and our boots on the ground people that can help them dealing with our students that are returning after this long absence, COVID, all these stressors and social emotional stuff this roller coaster they've been on, and now we just throw them right back to our teachers.
That's right.
And we expect them to just start learning again.
You're absolutely right.
And there's going to be some work there. And so what are maybe some keys or techniques you could give to our boots on the ground folk?
Well, here we go. So we do know that the pandemic has taken our society and our young adults and turned us upside down. So there's the thing, the social emotional learning, as we know, for the planning and returning back to schools, we have to understand that that's the next step in order to be able to teach our teachers how to work with our young adults, because the level of trauma and the crisis that they've experienced, we have to understand that we can't just place them back into the classroom and expect them to be successful. So one of the things that I suggest is that we try to understand how to manage those emotional needs that our young adults will be experiencing once they enter back into society, into their school system. Secondly, we have to understand the importance of setting and achieving those positive goals, and also teaching what that might look like for a lot of our young adults, which is why programs such as CAS is so important, because that's a big component of it. Thirdly, we have to teach them how to feel and show empathy for one another, because when you're at home with your family and you're not having that one-on-one connection with your peers, we tend to lose that level of empathy and sympathy with one another. And so as a facilitator, as a teacher, I have to not only understand what that might look like, but I also have to understand the importance of teaching that to my young adults when they do return on campus. And then there's fourth, establishing and maintaining that positive relationship. And that a lot has to do with positive affirmation, being able to understand that our students have lost that contact, not only with teachers, with administrators, with you, with Adam, with myself. And so we have to teach them how to reconnect in a healthy manner as well. And then lastly, making them responsible for their decisions. So that means that we have to go back to teaching them what decision making is. There's a thing in Reconnecting Youth called STEPS, and we use it also in CAS, called Stop, Think, Evaluate, Perform, and Self-Praise. Well, although that is something that we focus on, and that's a skill that we teach, we have to continue to make sure that we modify that with our young adults, because they lose that skill by being at home for almost over a year and being away from that educational system. So there's a roadmap that I always say we have to start following with that social emotional learning. One is we have to start understanding the importance of teaching skills and getting that back into the school system, not only for our young adults, but also for our parents as well. The second one is adjustment of expectations. We have a high expectations of our young adults. We have a high expectation of our teachers. We have a high expectation of our parents. And we have to understand that we have to start back from the bottom and being able to teach them those skills in which they need to be successful and make that connection back into the school system. And then, of course, building that resiliency and what that might look like for our young adults to be successful. So we used to say that in social emotional learning was something that was, it was nice to do. It was cool on the surface, but now we know that it's something that we must do. So we have to get our kids connected. And those are some of the basic tips to start when they start returning back to school.
Wow. I mean, that nice, Nicole. I mean, great stuff right there. I mean, I'm a federal government guy. I spent 25 years in federal government. So I had a little saying, you know, before there can be change, people have to care.
They have to care.
You have to care before you can implement change. So, I mean, with those great concepts that you're alluding to, right? You just spoke of. Are you finding that school districts, principals, higher level administrators are being receptive to that type of change and wanting to implement those things? Or are you kind of still fighting them as a hurdle, finding them as kind of an obstacle for whatever reason?
So there are different levels. There is the administrative part who have a responsibility, and a lot of that is through testing, because you got to understand, you know, that's how a lot of the school systems can tunnel and make sure that they can finance those students being on campus. So they do have a responsibility to make sure that that administrative part is taken care of. However, our teachers, when you make that connection to them, they are starving for resources, because you have to understand, we can say they don't serve in the capacity as mother, father, uncle, granddad, but they do. They serve in every single one of those stages, and they want tools in order to be successful with their students, because they're still trying to make this situation work even in their own personal families. So they want it. We just have to find a way to be creative and get it to them, which is why I'm loving this podcast so much.
Yeah, well, we certainly appreciate you being here. I know that there's so much I would love to ask, but I know that for the sake of time and you know, what we're doing today, Nicole, again, I appreciate everything that you're sharing. I know that one of the tasks that we have coming up is a training for coaches, athletic directors, and educators across the board. And you know, you and I have been talking about this for a long time. I know Keith and I, you know, we've lived it as athletes, you know, being around some of the best coaches that we could ever find. And we were so fortunate. And, you know, we really emphasize the importance of standards of coaching, but most importantly, being able to provide the right training. And so you've been doing some training for many, many years for the RY company, but I also know that you also have an extensive background in working with coaches. So I know that we're slated to have a training coming up here in April. And just wanted you to share a little bit about both programs that you'll be training on, and so our listeners can really get a good idea of what they're about to be a part of.
Yes, thank you. So I am excited about this training, because when we talked about my outreach, this is where it begins. It begins with our coaches. We know that 85% of our young adults are raised in single parent households. And so because they spend so much quality time with their coaches are everything. They become their resource. They become their father if it's a young man, and they become a mother if it's a female. And so the cast for today's student athletes training is Thursday, April the 22nd from 11 to 1 Pacific Standard Time. The purpose of the training is because we understand that 1 in 3 adolescents report knowing a friend or have experienced being physically hurt by their dating partner. So Coaching Boys into Men is designed for male athletes, and Athletes for Leaders is designed for female athletes. And the purpose is to help build character. And we know that in the school system, that is one of their strategic strategies, is to help young adults build their character. The second one is help building healthy relationships, not only on the field, but off the field. Why is that so important? Because our athletes serve as leaders on their campus. They serve as role models on their campus. So coaches have a responsibility to give them those additional tools in order for them to facilitate their leadership skills with their student body. And the third one is prevent dating violence before it even starts. And so they become the advocate, they become the voice. Both of these programs, Adam, are national programs. It affords us an opportunity to be able to promote, again, those healthy relationships and prevent sexual and dating violence, not only in middle school, which is so unfortunate, but yes, it does occur in middle school, but also in high school amongst male and female student athletes. Some of the topics that we will be discussing are understanding and the importance of leadership, not only with our coaches, but also with our players. We're going to do a lot of talking about consent, because we make the assumption that we understand what consent is. And unfortunately, when our athletes get to college, they don't have a clue of what consent really means. And so we're going to do a lot of that. And then again, just talking about healthy versus unhealthy relationships. So I'm excited about this training, Adam. I hope that everyone that is hearing my voice will sign up and they're interested. Adam, I was going to talk about, they can go on to the Eventbrite link, which they can find on support@reconnectingyouth.com, and they can acquire and they can get the Eventbrite link. Or if you had another way for them to receive that by just contacting you, I think it's going to be a dynamic training. It's going to not be boring. We're going to do a lot of interacting. I love asking questions. I like to get into the minds and see where people are at. So again, I'm excited about the cast for today's student athlete training.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I already know what we're about to be a part of. And so we're just excited. I know that Keith has probably a few more questions for you as well. But, again, we definitely appreciate the fact that, we can talk about this with our coaches. Our coaches play a significant role in many lives of the children that we're serving. And again, that component of being able to have that family engagement along with coaching is so critical. So with that said, though, thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicole, I mean, coaching, sticking with the coaching emphasis, it has changed so much from the time, folks like old guys like me and Adam were playing sports, especially in high school, and the student athlete mind has changed. Some for better, I'm sure some for not for better. But what are maybe some outlooks that coaches can maybe try to develop? Some easy little tricks of the trade that maybe would make them understand their student athletes a little better, so that ultimately not only are they coaching a better student athlete, but developing that young human mind and a human being for later as well.
So one of the things that through coaching boys into men and athletes and leaders that we realize is that it's those teachable moments that our coaches tend to miss. We understand the importance of the game, and the game is tremendously important, but we tend to miss when our young adults on the field are trying to reach out and talk to our coaches, and because they're starving for that level of attention that they're not getting in any other way. And when we're talking about the game is one thing, but that personal life is something totally different. And so when we do the coaching boys into men training, there are things that we call teachable moments, looking for those different cues. We have to look at how our athletes are behaving, not necessarily on the field, but also off the field as well. And we have to be okay and be comfortable enough to engage them in conversation. One of the biggest things that a lot of my coaches would say is, I'm afraid to open up Pandora's box because I'm not sure if I have the resources or the tools to be able to support my athletes. So I keep the box closed. And we're going to give them tools at this training so they'll feel comfortable enough to talk about those things, which we call teachable moments.
Wow, that's awesome. I like that. I hope everyone can try to attend that for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's great having you on, Adam. Anything?
Yeah, no, I just, again, talking more about the training, Nicole, I'm thinking about, so who should attend? I know that I've had several conversations with college coaches, athletic directors, individuals that are in the community. We've also had some parents that already have expressed some interest. So who should attend?
So there are also select teams that, that we have a lot of young adults participate. So I say anyone who works with an athlete should participate because we know that there are parents who are very active with our young adults, and whereas the coaches always need that level of support, by them attending this training, they will also be able to capture those moments when we see our young adults falling short. And so we want parents, we want community partners. We're not going to say it's just limited to just athletes. We know the coaches are extremely important, and it is a program designed for coaches, but I think that it goes beyond that. We want anyone that works with those coaches to be a part of this training.
I agree.
That's great. I think too that, appreciate that. what will be some of the takeaways? The takeaways from a coach or a parent, from this training? What kind of deliverables and takeaways?
So there are four key ones here. One, a better understanding of their role as a coach and how they're influencing those young men and young women when they talk about how to treat a young lady or a woman or a young lady. Also recognizing those teachable moments when they occur and understanding that their voices really do matter. And so they're going to understand why it's so important. One, because when their students, athletes graduate, they still have to go off to college. And we want them to be the best version of themselves when they do get to college, because we know that that's when the partying began, and that's when we start to lose a lot of our athletes. Thirdly, possess those tools to educate young men and young women regarding dating violence. 5 million young adults in the United States of Texas are victims of domestic abuse. One is too many. Then we're going to talk about continuing in that journey. And that journey is coping and support training, CAS. Because once again, we cannot assume that our young adults have those tools in order to be successful. And so the coaches are going to not only get the information for coaching boys into men and athletes as leaders, but they're also going to talk about how they can continue those services once those 12 lessons have ended, what they're going to be doing on the field.
Nice. We are here with Nicole Franklin-Jones, lead trainer of ROI Inc. And if you're just joining us, you're definitely going to want to go back on YouTube and catch what she's been telling us all, because it's great information and stuff anybody can use in this walk of life with young people and anyone else for that matter. We're just about out of time, Nicole. Unless Adam had something. Again, thank you for joining us here at Coach's Conversation Café. It was a great segment, awesome topic, and to bring in an expert like yourself with so many years of experience and the educational background that you possess was a nice little nugget for us today.
I appreciate that.
Very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, it does my heart so well to just know that you're part of our team and all the great things that you're doing. And I'm so fortunate as the CEO and president to be working side by side with you. And literally that's what I do. Work side by side with you, and you lead the way, and so excited about where we're headed as a company. And you're a big part of that. So thank you so much for your day.
You're welcome. Change is coming.
All right. Thank you all again for joining us here at Coach's Conversation Cafe. Nicole Franklin-Jones, ladies and gentlemen.